Welcome to MX Unfiltered, the reaction show. This is round one of 2025 Pro Motocross. All right, up first, I got to talk about the DNFs. And truthfully, it should have never happened on both riders. Cooper Webb, it was a bike malfunction, but he said in Supercross that he was getting the bike hot. He almost blew the bike up at, what was it, Seattle, where he went from like sixth to third or something in a lap. And that bike was smoking. But to be fair, everyone's motorcycle was smoking because I hate Supercross mud races. Motocross mud races, however, those things are epic. Abso-effing-lutely amazing. Supercross, ixnay that. Nobody wants that shit. That should just get out of here. We should have indoor stadiums. And truthfully, I feel that the schedule should have like 10 Supercrosses, 10 motocrosses, go from 33 races to 23, still have the playoffs, but like have first 3 rounds of Supercross, then next 3 rounds of motocross, then Supercross. I think it would just give a good dynamic, and it would keep people's heads turnings and make it to the point where guys that feel great at Supercross, that have their mojo going, then all of a sudden they get a DNF, ironically, in a moto, and then it kind of makes everything back and forth here. But what we saw from Sexton was his same old. He got in his own head. He got in his own. I truthfully, I need to ask Chase Sexton if he's got a mental coach. Truthfully, because that's really the only thing I've said multiple times why that SOB is missing, is just getting his head right. Because number one, I've talked to some of the Oakley guys and, things like that. And he's very fidgety with his goggles. He's very fidgety. He almost makes goggle changes, last minute decisions on the line. And truthfully, usually last minute decisions don't work out well. Like, let's be honest here. If you're heading for a triple and you're going YW open and you all of a sudden go, nope, I'm not going to do that. Usually it ends badly, right? So was that something that happened? I know I wasn't there at Paula, but that's something I would have been looking at is, hey, did he make a last minute goggle change? He had dirt in there. Got it. But what he should have done is lap 1, pulled over, and that would have relieved him, because what did we see at one of the Supercross rounds where he hit the gate? He damn near came from last to win the fucker, right? So if he pulls off, he almost puts himself in a better situation to, all right, it's out of my control. Control the things that you can, let go of the things you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference. That's the serenity prayer. And not, in moto, everyone prays, like everyone does it. They cross their T's, they do everything, because it's a very dangerous sport. A lot of them thank Jesus, baby Jesus on the podium. You got to make sure you stay safe, because 90% of the guys end up having some sort of an injury throughout 33 races, which is, it makes perfect sense for that, because these guys are riding at 150%. But this week video, I'm going to kind of go over Tomac and Jett, and I'm kind of digressing just a little bit here, but I really liked Bubba's analysis on stuff. He really pointed out, okay, you got one dude that's elbow down and just wide open. Then you have the other guy, gear taller, just rolling speed, and I'll go over a little bit more of that. But backtracking to a little bit of what I was talking about with Sexton was lap 1. Get your ass back into the pits, get some damn new goggles, because number one, you are KTM's multi-million dollar asset. And same thing with your eyes. Paula, there's rocks out there. I've broken my nose. You probably can't see it here, but yeah, I've broken my nose from rocks with goggles on. Okay. You do not want to ride. Maybe if it's the last lap, you're on the podium, but he wasn't even on the podium at that point. You're in 4th, dude. You can't get close to anybody. Your race is fucked, man. Just pull the F over, regroup, get some new goggles, and then hammer down, because we all know Chase would hammer down. As long as he gave himself the courtesy to let it go. And usually things out of his control have to happen for him to just forget about the pressure. And then he's able to perform at one of the highest levels I've ever seen of any motocross athlete ever, right? He's almost untouchable when he goes through that stuff. What was it last year at Hangtown, right? When everyone thought that he was out. Was it Hangtown or was it? Yeah, it was Hangtown. He went from like 40th to first, right? The dude is exceptional at that stuff. And then the irony is, the brain fart happens and you have a professional athlete miss shift. He was probably in between third and fourth gear, lands in some soft mud, and then instantly augers in and gives himself a concussion. I'm guessing he's going to be back next weekend. You know, truthfully, docs, you need to have 3 weeks or so, maybe sometimes 6 weeks for concussions. You know, but he's going to be back on there. He's a defending champ. Tim, I don't agree. I don't think he wanted out. I think he just had a brain fart because he was doing what Chase does best, is get in his own effing way. That is something where the dude needs a mental coach, and maybe he has it. If he has a mental coach, he needs a new one, right? An athletic performance, somebody that he can talk to get these feelings out and to, you know, learn from the mistakes, because truthfully, he's made too many of the same mistakes. When things go out of his control, he ends up auguring in. And sometimes when he has things completely in his control, he starts thinking too far ahead. And that's exactly what happened with him missing the shift, is he was thinking too far ahead. He should have gotten into the pits effing 3 laps ago, because your eyes are very important. Again, KTM's $1 million asset. And therefore, at the beginning of a 30-minute moto, you do not let that go, man. That is bad, because then he's up against the odds at that point. You know, your whole race, you can't move forward. You're worried about not getting past. And we all know in moto and in mental, like any athletic deal, as soon as you're in defense mode, you're not building forward. Okay. So that was the big issue there. And Webb, it was totally in his control with that motorcycle. I mean, he ended up, what was it? Was it 6th, that second moto? So he ended up regrouping. Oh, it was 7th. I think he got 7th that last moto. So he regrouped, but you could tell you got guys that have been doing moto. I'm guessing Jett in the background, Tomac, both of those guys have been practicing moto for a while. And then you've got the 2 guys, Sexton and Cooper, who have been practicing Supercross nonstop. Truthfully, I don't really know Deegan. We've seen on some of his socials that he's been practicing moto. And speaking of the 250 class, well, let's not go there just yet, because let's talk about Tomac. Okay. The dude should be retired by now. And truthfully, whatever he ends up, if he ends up on KTM, gets Chase's ride, or if he ends up on Ducati, which I would love to see him on Ducati, but I just don't believe he's wanting to build a program. He kind of just wants to have a program that's there that will just, you know, cater to his needs. He wants the whole team to be butlers for him, and rightfully so. He's there to win races, not to build up. I mean, you know, some guys like to teach, and truthfully, I think everybody should teach at some point. You know, 3 things for success is you got to compare yourself to somebody to keep leveling up, right? And so you don't get complacent. You got to teach somebody so that you learn from your mistakes and you give back, because that's really to happiness. It's the key to happiness, is to give back. And then number 3, you have to have a mentor. Who the fuck is going to be Tomac's mentor? I don't know. Right. That his dad, right? John Tomac. And I think that's exactly what he's going. But truthfully, what we saw from Tomac that second moto, getting close to Jett, I honestly, do I believe it, or do I think it was the same thing that we've seen time and time again from Jett, where he'll let somebody get close to him and he deals with pressure astronomically well, and then he just puts down the hammer and then just kills your entire ego, because he's 1 second there, the next second he's gone. You know, he manages his races very well. Right. But Tomac is one of those guys where I don't necessarily think Jett wants to play those games with, because Tomac is a bulldog. That dude, Same thing with Sexton. I know I actually, Tomac is beast mode. I nickname Chase the Bulldog because that's what he does. He's tough as nails. He never gives up. He comes back, but gets in his own way. So was this a fluke? I do not believe so. I believe that Tomac needs to get better starts. He needs to start in front of Jett to beat Jett. It's going to be incredibly difficult for him to beat Jett by going around him on the outside. But he can go around him on the outside or the inside as long as he starts in front of him. That's what he's going to have to do. And with the 250s, Deegan gets a bad start, Moto 1, ends up winning by 10 seconds. And then Moto 2 gets a good start, lets the race come to him, shows resilience, and also shows experience. And for that, the 250 class, I don't know. I'm more impressed with Joe in the 250 class. That dude came out swinging. The Cowie guys, honestly, Ty, we know he's fast on a 450. We haven't really seen incredible speed on the 250, which we did now. But then Marchbanks is really fast. But truthfully, I think Marchbanks is too big for a 250. He's in that like 180 range. And we know that Deegan is 165. That's like the perfect weight for a 250. And the standout is having RJ on the Huskies in the 450 class. Just switched just real quick there, that he was better than his teammate Stewart on the 450. And honestly, I think RJ will ride that 450 better than Malcolm will. And I truthfully think he's going to have more success on the 450 as far as riding wise, not positioning wise, because it's going to be very difficult to say, hey, he gets third places and he wins races. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the level of skill and riding wise, I think his stature and the way he rides a bike fits the 450. I don't think he's going to see any better results because of just the level of talent there. And I think that's what a lot of guys end up doing wrong, is they think if they have a good day by how they finish. And no, that's not really how it is at all. It's how do you ride the bike, right? And what I saw from RJ, that was a winning ride in the 250 class, what RJ was doing on that Husky. And I truthfully, Hymas comes out swinging, right? He let that moto go. I think he just got off camber. No, he just got off balance. He jumped into a rut that, he came out at too straight and the rut was going here and he just couldn't lean into it. So his weight went to weighting the outside peg, and therefore the front wheel turned on him and he just flopped over it. Same thing that happened with Seth. Mistake that could have been avoided, and Hymas should have won that first moto, but coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? There's a lot of that goes around with him, and he had some standout rides last year in the 250 class, but will anybody be able to pressure Deegan? Because what I saw on TV was anytime anybody got close to, once Deegan ran up on him, Deegan gave it away. Not Deegan gave it away, but people gave it away to Deegan. Sorry, I'm looking at the comments here as well, and I think everyone is scared of Deegan, right? That metal militia attitude. The kid's got confidence. It's going to take maybe a 450 ride to put him in his place. I don't know. That's why I kind of want to see an open class at some point. I think that would be cool, just to have like some sort of an open moto. I mean, it's the MX of Nations. Hopefully he'll race for the United States. That would be awesome to see, but there's so much contracts up and money, and guys don't get paid for the Motocross of Nations, and they're tired and injured, so I don't know. For that, I almost want to say that, like, if Deegan runs away with having 22-0, I think we'll see him race Motocross of Nations, as long as people don't push him too hard. But if it's a struggle for him to win the championship, I don't think we are going to see him race at all. All right. And the whole goggle thing, I know Chase's goggle guy. It's the same guy as Tomac. He does an amazing job with all those guys. And that was Sexton's fault. And Sexton should have came in. Totally avoidable. And now his season is relatively ruined He's minus 50 points on Jett. Now you gotta wait for Jett to hurt himself, to DNF something, because you're not gonna make up 50 points on Jett the way he's riding. You know, Tomac might be able to keep it close. And did you see how Tomac late in the moto, last couple laps, just gave it to Jett, you know, where all of a sudden it was like a 10-second lead? And Tomac is not the guy to have your head just get completely ripped off by like, oh, I was there and then I wasn't there. You know, Sexton, his mental direction, he has to be there till the end to believe in himself, where Tomac has enough experience that it speaks for himself, that he knows, hey, I was there the majority of the race. I let you go. I let you beat me, type of a deal. So for that, we'll see what happens at round 2. But so far, very, very interesting. Jeremy Martin for Yamaha. I was expecting more out of him as well, too. I know he's been sidelined for a little while, but we'll see if those results improve, because I know top 20 is not really what Yamaha was thinking, and to replace Cole Davies on that star Yamaha. But who knows? Anyway, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And, you know, if you want to hit the notification icon, that's okay. But for sure, hit the like button, because the YouTube algorithm loves it. And make sure you stay tuned, because I got an epic breakdown video coming up here. But anyway, guys, if you ride tomorrow, be safe and enjoy yourself, right?